Hello everybody and welcome back. This is Not a Pro Gardener here, and we are in Zone 6B. Today we're going to be harvesting our carrots and our beets. If you've seen from maybe these other videos that we've direct seeded them in our raised beds, today is going to be a harvest video and possibly a garden update video if this video doesn't run too long. I have a lot of stuff to cover. We've been gone for a little while, so it's time to catch everybody back up to speed on what the things are doing in the garden. It's the second week in June, and we had a week of about 91-degree temperatures about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and my carrots started to bolt. And I am just now getting to where I can get in and harvest them, and everything is mostly done for the most part. It's about 67 degrees this morning, full sun. It's going to be a warm day today. We're going to try to get this stuff harvested a little early, and we're just going to talk about a little bit about harvesting the carrots and stuff like that. So, all right, so let's go over here and show how everything's progressed. All right, so as you can see here, this is about how far my carrots have progressed. As you can see, some of them are starting to go to seed. They've bolted. These are just going to be carrot food for the rabbits now, because most of them have bolted, but there is some in there. I have looked, but we're just going to show you how these carrots have done. So we're going to go ahead and harvest them, and then we're going to talk about this raised bed, how it's been doing, and everything about these carrots. So let's go ahead and get to it. Whew. All right, so this raised bed, you've seen me pulling these carrots out of. If you're wondering where that came from, I'll pip up an image here of the video thumbnail and maybe a link to the video that you can click on up here somewhere for that video, so you can see where and how I built this raised bed in case you're interested in this raised bed. I got a video showing you how you make it. There's 2 videos that cover it. So if you're interested in this video, you can click on this link up here somewhere, this little card that I put up, and check that out too. The reason that we chose to harvest these now is because they're starting to bolt, okay? And I also don't want these carrots to get woody, because if they get too big, they'll start to get woody, or like I did have a few aphids in there. There was a whole ladybug city in there. Those guys were taking care of them, which is good. Very good news for out here in the garden. If those carrots get really big and you can't get out there to harvest them, they could start getting woody in the center of the carrot, which is still edible, but it's just not desirable for some people. So that's the reason why we got to them now, which is the same reason why we're going to get to these beets here soon. They're the perfect size that I want, so we're going to harvest them as well. So whenever your crops reach the desired size for you, that's when you want to harvest them. You don't want to just let them go because somebody told you to do so. No, if you don't like your vegetables being a little woody and a little bit smaller, then harvest them when you like to harvest them. That's the best thing for you to do. And like I said, carrots can be harvested anytime after they reach the desired size. The best harvest period I've found for me is about 2 to 3 weeks whenever they're ready to harvest. So if they're ready to harvest 2 weeks ago, I would want to get them harvested within 2 to 3 weeks from that time. Otherwise, they could start declining in taste, or they could decline in the appearance, and you don't want that, okay? Now this raised bed here, I would say, we'll show you in a minute how many we pulled out of here, but I would say this raised bed did pretty good this year. I'm pretty happy with it, and I would love to build more of them and just have like a whole patio filled with them one day, which would be nice and neat, and they could be different colors or something like that. But one thing about this is I would say I probably got enough for maybe 3 to 4 meals or more out of there. It was around maybe 4 or 5 meals of carrots out of there. You know, most people don't eat a ton of carrots. Some people do. It just depends on you, you know. Now you want to store these carrots at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which I'm going to be putting them in the refrigerator. And you definitely want to remove them tops. As maybe you've seen me twisting them tops off in the video. I would twist them off and throw them in the bucket. You don't want them tops on there. I usually leave about maybe 2 or so inches of the tops on there, but if you leave them on there and you store them, they will pull moisture and sugar from your roots, and it will make your carrots just not as good as they were the day they were harvested. So just keep that in mind. Those tops can leach stuff from your carrot roots. So rip them tops off, guys. Don't be afraid to do that. So we're gonna drop these tops in for the rabbits, and then we're gonna go over here and check out the beets. All right, so as you can see, these beets, they look a little declined. They got some dead leaves in them, you know. I'm just gonna show you one for example. This guy right here is an avalanche beet. This is the size that I want. It's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. That's the perfect size that I like to have. And I usually have pretty good success with them. So we're gonna go ahead and get all these harvested real quick, and then we'll talk about the carrots and the beets all over at the same table. So let's get to it. All right. Okay, so we got the beets harvested, we got the carrots harvested. I'm just gonna show you a little bunch of each, kind of like the average of what I've been pulling, and then I'll show you the whole lot, kind of all together in one little clip here in a minute. But the beets, you wanna harvest the roots at your desired size, as with the carrots, because they get pithy or woody. If they get too big, they do get kind of woody. I have done that before, so I know that's true. Some beginner gardeners might think bigger is better, but then again, most times when root crops get bigger like this, they get pithy or woody, which is like a harder, not as tender carrot or tender beet. So this is about the size that I stick with. You wash and store your bunches, and they can store roughly up to 10 days, I've found. And you want to store them at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 95% humidity for best results. Now the carrots there, I believe they're like 98% humidity at the same temperature for the best results for them. You can find that information on Johnny's Growers Library. That's for everybody to read. In case anybody needs any information, they have a wealth of information on their website for free. Okay, so let's take you down here and show you what we got. Well, this is the biggest beet that I had, but I'm just gonna grab a few other ones in comparison that are roughly about the average. This is about the average of what I have. These guys right here, these beets, this is about the average of what I had. Had a few small ones and a lot of little bitty ones that didn't make, but that's kind of how it is whenever you direct seed beets the way I did. I just kind of sprinkled them along the row and let them multi-germ, and then kind of harvested whatever. And then I kind of harvested whatever I ended up wanting or liking for the pot or food. So one of the things that I use these beets for, I use these for, you can pickle them. I have pickled them. I want to quick pickle some of these avalanche beets because they are white on the inside, and I'm interested to try that. But I'm also wanting to try canning these in just water, pressure canning them. And I've also used beets for sauteing them in soy sauce for like stir fries and stuff, which is pretty good. The kids usually like them, which is a win, because beets are very good for you. Now these carrots, let me get these guys all bouqueted up for you. These are some of the Dragoon purple carrots I put in for a filler. And this is about the average size of these carrots that I had. There was a bunch of small ones that didn't make, so those got turned into rabbit food, which is not a bad deal right there. Some like these got turned into rabbit food, but the rest of these, this is textbook Atlas carrot from the kind that we chose to plant this year. They're made for hard soils, so they only get this big. It's like a golf ball size. So I did achieve what I set out to do and grow some golf ball sized carrots, which is really what I wanted to try for fun this year. So me and the kids will enjoy eating these for dinner. Okay, so now I think we're gonna go ahead and do some walking around, and we're gonna show you some of the veggies that we got going on here. Here soon we're gonna be harvesting some broccoli, so I'm gonna give you a sneak peek of what the whole garden looks like right now, and we're gonna go ahead and do a little walkthrough. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, everybody, so normally we start on the other side of the garden plot for our updates, but this time we're gonna start on this side. Check out this giant butternut squash. Got a few potential candidates for the giant fruit. There is the first one right there that came off of it, but I got quite a few more. Looking pretty big, pretty good size. Got some weeds popping up. I've been kind of slacking on the garden. I've been doing some side projects. Here's our honey nut squash, which we are looking forward to these guys as well. Now I'm just gonna swing over here. Now this is our tomato experiment. Anybody that's been keeping along with me to see how this is going, it's going great. Like, got one plant, 2, 3, and then I got that still growing here, right here, for me to get another one out of it. Hopefully, if it keeps growing, I might get one more plant out of it. But it's so far along in my season that I had to make a decision and pivot and just go with what I have. So if you see here, this is the size of the stems coming up for this tomato plant. This is the first one I had right here. It's got plenty of flowers on it. It's got lots of action. It definitely needs a lot of stability because this thing is absolutely huge. So once it gets a little bit bigger, I'm going to try to trellis it a little better, or I might just put a piece of Hortonova trellis from here to here. To the other side of it, this is what it looks like. Kind of rigged this thing up. I usually keep these long poles around so I can make stuff like this. Little trellis system that I just kind of whipped up real quick that didn't cost nothing. Here is my sun sugar. Got one coming off here, one coming off here, and then one coming off here. And then I accidentally snapped this guy off, so I buried it anyway, but I think I might just call it quits with this one because I accidentally broke it. These 3 plants here will be plenty, so I'm probably going to put a Hortonova trellis up on this side from here to here. That way it can lay up against it, and then I'll just kind of weave a string around it somehow to keep it leaning that way. But this is what the back side of these other ones look like, which is why I brought you around here. I got a big root ball system here. The vine goes long ways this way and connects all these tomato plants together underneath here. That's all one tomato plant. From here, connects from big root ball all the way down to this plant, and then all the way down to that plant, and then right here is the head of the tomato plant still going, trying to make another plant. So that's one plant turned into 3 so far, and they're already catching up to the plants I have in the in-ground, which we'll check out in a minute. Still got a little work to be done around here. Just harvested carrots and beets, as you can see. Now look at this Swiss chard. This stuff is in here for good, and I love it. Be careful, don't get blinded by those bright lights Swiss chard. Now, here's the onions. The onions I've been trying to keep watered, which is a challenge. But as you can see, they're not doing too bad. Got some decent potential candidates for the largest onion I've ever grown. It's gonna be hard to beat, but they're all doing pretty good. Trying to keep them nice and wet so I can get some good bulbs on them. Now these multiplying onions, haven't really got a lot of comments for the contest I wanted to do, so hopefully we can get some more before time goes on. These guys are all gonna get harvested by me and the kids in the next couple days. We're gonna start drying them out so I can store them. They are done. Now, let's move on to the rest of the stuff. All right, check this stuff out. These tomato plants, ooh, look, got a little worker bee working his magic. So, these guys are doing pretty good. Still haven't got my first tomato yet, but we are on our way there. I gotta put another string. Gotta put another string on this for this guy really isn't doing the best. He's just kind of hanging along there. Not really. Maybe that drip line's not. Every once in a while I'll find a little hole in my drip line that does not put out the water it's supposed to. It's like it's a blind spot. But anyway, I do got to put another row of string up on this. These guys are just about a foot past the top of that string, which is when you want to put it on. They're looking pretty good. Man, these red snappers are going crazy. I gotta say, this is probably the best tomato I've had this year. These guys are growing nuts. Kind of bunched up here. Get them unbunched up so there ain't no like disease issues going on. Hopefully. That's the price you pay whenever you wrap the string around sometimes. But as you can see, these guys are not looking too bad. Bella Rosa is doing just as good as the red snapper. It's just the red snapper just looks amazing. This is 2 plants right here. Looks like 1 continuous plant. Got these guys in kind of late. My watermelon transplants, they're just starting to get out of transplant shock. As you can see, they took the place of my bush beans. I have never failed growing bush beans before, but this is my first year. I have to admit a failure on that. Those guys just did not want to come up. I don't know if I had a crow come in here and pick out seeds or my chickens came in here and picked out the seeds, but it was just the worst germination I've ever had on beans. So I ended up getting some more seed packets. We'll put some in later, me and the kids, after the broccoli and stuff probably goes away. I'll have a pretty big spot to plant stuff over here. So these summer squash ain't doing too bad. Got to do some weeding. That water grass is terrible over here. Got to do some harvesting on these guys. These first ones I got going on here are going to be used for deep frying, which is like, they got to be deep fried. Like the first summer squash you get, they just got to be like deep fried. Kind of like the first thing we do here with our summer squash. So these patty pans ain't looking too bad. Some of them are getting a little big, but if they get too big, they'll just be rabbit food. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a mass harvest on these. As you can see, I got these stakes in here. I'm going to try to grow these vertically this year. I've seen a few people do it. So I'm going to be harvesting and pruning as I go along this evening. I'm going to wait till later because all the bees are doing their activity and stuff right now. Speak of the devil. Now next would be our Brussels sprouts. Now, haven't quite had success growing these just yet, but as you can see, they're starting to form a little something in there on the Red Bull Brussels sprouts. So those are going to be hopefully a win. I've had some of these grow last year, but they was like half developed. It's just getting too hot, and you need that cold weather to kind of get these guys to make those Brussels sprouts really nicely. Collards, we're going to do a mass harvest on these. I did have some bug pressure, as you can see. Had some bug pressure, probably from a cabbage looper or whatever that is. Can't quite recall, but as you can see, I sprayed some Azera, took care of all these guys. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, leave this bit, harvest everything else, and I'm going to give this stuff to the rabbits. It's been a couple weeks now. That's organic spray, ain't going to hurt them. It's done and gone by now, so Now look at the cabbage. This head is practically ready to harvest. It could get a little bit bigger, but I'm gonna start harvesting these for dinner whenever I need them. I'm not gonna wait for them all to get big, so I'm just gonna start harvesting the bigger ones and we're gonna start eating them. Cannot wait. This Caribbean Queen cabbage head looks pretty good. Now the kale, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna have to mass harvest all that stuff. It's gonna be rabbit food, and then it'll start growing back since I got rid of the bug pressure. Then we'll start having more harvest with our greens. All right, here's my extra broccoli row. Broccoli's looking pretty good, guys. I'm pretty excited about it. Now, whenever your broccoli heads get this big and it's starting to be about 90 degrees outside on the regular, every morning and evening you want to be watching these little flower heads. That's what each one of these are. Little flower heads. You want to watch them and make sure they ain't starting to open up. And if they do start to open up, you can still eat them, but you want to cut them. You want to cut them and harvest the ones that are starting to flower because you don't want them to go to seed. It'd be kind of a waste. And then you can harvest some of this stalk. I usually harvest it about 4 or 5 inches lower than the head, and then usually eat some of the stalk too because it's pretty good. You grow it yourself, and the stalk is actually pretty tender when you grow it yourself. Now this cauliflower, it's hard to see. Every once in a while I'll find one that has a cauliflower head in it about yay big, which is a little behind my broccoli, but that's normal for cauliflower for us. So now this jade cross Brussels sprouts. These guys are starting to look like they're gonna start making some decent little Brussels sprouts. Hopefully they can keep on making. I think if I keep them watered and sprayed with that Azera, if I get any more bug problems, they'll be fine. But other than that, I think they're gonna do okay. I cross my fingers. As you can see, that white butterfly's flying around. That's an enemy out here. He'll be getting taken care of, hopefully, with that Azera. Okay, now the moment of the hour. The next thing that's gonna be getting harvested is this broccoli. Look at this. Yet another giant broccoli head. I love this stuff. This stuff is great. Tastes good and it's really, really good for you. Now, it's hard to get the actual size in the picture, but I'm hoping to beat last year. Last year they was all about this size, and then I had some that was even bigger than this. So I'm hoping I can grow some even bigger than this, but at the rate the temperature's going, it's going to be really hard to make that possible. So hopefully we can get that going here and take care of that. As you can see, some of them starting out and some of them's just about ending their cycle. So there's a pretty good size one right there. Yeah, that one's pretty good size. I'd say that's about 9 inches or bigger across. And here's another one that's kind of laid over. That one don't look too bad either. But this broccoli, I am excited about it. Some of these guys are just getting huge. That one didn't really make, so that one's probably gonna be a bust. But the rest of these are doing just fine. In case y'all's wondering, when's the last time we had a rain? We got fissures like this all over the ground because we just ain't had no rain. It ain't been coming up. It's been dry as a bone out here. So let's go check out the corn. And this is the corn. It's about head high. It's kind of been a jump of production here. And as you can see, we got tassels. Now we just gotta wait for the silks to come on. And it's kind of late for them, but they are starting to make, so hopefully they make all this stuff in time to pollinate themselves. Been trying to keep them watered. It's just hard. Hard to keep corn satisfied sometimes. A little ear coming on. This corn's looking pretty good, really. I'd say you can grow sweet corn in hard clay soil. It's not easy, but it's doable. All right, don't judge, the weeds have kind of taken over here. These are my giant butternut squash. I was going to use these for the giant one, but I think I'm just going to let these guys go and use them for the food supply, since they ain't really doing as good as them other ones that I got in the front. Into the main garden plot, we're just going to let this one go and that one go, and they're just going to be for food and see how that goes. So that's it. All right, so as you've seen how the garden's doing, if you stuck around this long, thanks for watching the videos, guys. We appreciate it here. And the reason we've been kind of laying off this stuff